Well, let's talk the BECE now. It kick-started yesterday. It's going all the way to Friday. And of course, there are some problems that we are facing. We're going to be having a conversation on that shortly as I engage my guest on that all-important matter. You do know, however, that there was this student with a sufferer of cerebral palsy, of course, through no fault of his. And of course, the situation that came to the fore where, in fact, no proper systems had been put in place for people like this student who had to sit this exam. And so we're going to be interrogating some of these matters. We'll get into the issue as well of examination malpractice. We'll be joined by our guest shortly as we get into this conversation. And so this situation, it has kick-started, like I mentioned, and we'll be finding out what is also happening in the different regions as far as the examination is concerned. So we have joining the conversation Martina Bugri, my colleague, one of our correspondents. Martina, a very good morning to you.
Hi, good morning.
Right. So you're joining us from up north, the northern region, to be specific. What have the scenes been like in the northern region as far as the commencement of the BECE is concerned?
Largely, the region has not recorded anything untoward. Yesterday, they started with two papers. They started with ICT and social studies. Going through the various centers, all was set. They went into write without no hitches, except Kalpohini Senior High School, where they had to start late because that was the last center they sent the papers. And so there was a bit of a delay. But the regional minister intervened and insisted that the children be allowed extra time to be able to write the exams. And so they should make further arrangements to ensure that they all start today at the same time. And that was agreed upon, except that I think that largely everything went on smoothly. Except with the issue of the how that we spoke about the day before yesterday and yesterday. He had a challenge, and that's the only thing that I...
Right. Martina, just hold for me. I'll be coming back to you on those who couldn't participate in day one of the examination. Let me also bring in Kwasi Kwarteng, who speaks for the Ministry of Education. He is PRO. Mr. Kwarteng, a very good morning to you. Hello, Kwasi Kwarteng.
Good morning. Are you able to hear me?
I can hear you now. It's been a while. I hope you're well.
I'm fine. How are you too?
We're managing under the circumstances. So tell me, the examination has started from yesterday, but we realized that some students were not able to participate in the examinations from day one. In fact, my colleague, Martina Bugri, was just making mention of saying, what measures are being put in place for such students?
Okay, thank you very much. Like you rightly indicated, the examination started yesterday for a total number of about 552,000 students, 276 candidates. And then it is important to also state that this time around, you had WAEC combining both the private exams, that is the exams conducted for the private students, and that of the Ghana Education Service students. So largely, the conduct of the exams is done by WAEC. Yesterday, GS had their monitoring team on grounds, and I think the feedback that we picked generally was that it's been a smooth process. Information about students not present or not coming to write, that is not novel. Almost every time you may have one or two of such incidents. But of course, it depends on the situation, and based on the situation, probably all consequential decisions will be done accordingly. So of course, unless of course we are briefed upon the particular circumstance upon which student A or candidate A was unable to write the exams. Other than that, the expectation is that all the 552 students who registered for the exams will tender in and write the exams.
So tell me, what are the circumstances, so to speak, that would warrant making any accommodation for some of these students? Because if they missed out on day one, it means they've missed out on some examinations. It just skips my mind. It just skips my mind.
Why will you? What was the circumstance upon which they picked the exam?
And I'm saying it just skipped my mind. I wanted to go to one of those specific areas because there's this place. I'll just check for it where students, quite a number of them, missed out on day one. I do not know whether it was miscommunication or the inability of the students to partake in the exam for whatever reason. But I'm saying that based on what circumstances, what would mitigate the situation to ensure that maybe you make them sit a different paper or something of the sort? Or is there no such provision for them?
I would have appreciated probably if I had a full brief and a full fact, then I should be able to speak to the full brief and the full fact. But of course now, I mean, if we are to assume that students were unable to come and write the exams, I mean, the whole country, everybody knows that between the 17th and the 21st, candidates who registered for the exams are supposed to sit and write the exams.
Kwasi,
Yes.
pardon my interjection. Let me hypothesize here. Let's say, you know the situation in some parts of the country where students have to go on canoes. Sometimes they have to use impossible routes, so to speak. Let's assume some such situation crops up. There is rain or something, and they simply cannot make it. Are you saying that in such a circumstance, there's nothing that can be done?
I've not said that. So that's why I initially asked that if you could give me the full fact and the briefing as to what particular circumstance has happened. When the facts are there, we stick to the facts. If there are assumptions, I'm sure when such circumstances happen, or consequential incidental decisions will be made. The exams is not conducted by the Ghana Education Service. It's not conducted necessarily by the Ministry of Education. I mean, largely, it's outsourced to the WAEC. And, I mean, we should not also assume that when 552,000 students register, by default, you are recording 100% turnout. I mean, certainly people will genuinely not want to write. But I believe that based on the particular circumstance that will happen, of course, I'm sure, I mean, if we want to probably extend the conversation, I would say that WAEC should be able to give us proper briefing on their other plans when it comes to such circumstances. I am yet to hear of situations where students were unable to, or candidates were unable to write the exams, probably because they missed out because it rained or they had to paddle canoe or whatever. I am yet to hear of such circumstances, but I'm sure in such events, consequential decisions will be made by such authorities in charge. In America, they will say it's beyond my pay scale. I'm unable to, comment on incidents where I do not have direct authority to make decisions on them.
Let me also inquire from you. There's a situation, and maybe we can address those two-pronged issues. There's a situation with a student who suffers cerebral palsy. And interestingly, cerebral palsy.
Cerebral, okay.
Right. And this student, the parents were complaining that basically no provisions had been made to accommodate this student. So the last I heard was WAEC saying that they would make a computer accessible, I think, to the student, but the timing was going to remain the same. And some of us found that odd. With people who have such situations, of course, they need extra in some areas to be able to catch up with the rest.
I genuinely sympathize with such a parent, but we should not pretend that WAEC, some way, somehow, will be able to know exceptional and all the exceptional concerns of every individual, especially when it comes to the 550.
Kwasi Kwarteng, why not? WAEC is conducting the exam. They ought to know.
Why are we so interested in always finding a problem with every system. You ask the question. We'll answer, let me answer.
Are you insinuating, Kwasi Kwarteng, that we are necessarily just looking for problems? You had the person out there reach out, and you're saying that we are looking for problems?
If you have your answer, there's no point of continuing.
If you don't want to engage, Kwasi Kwarteng, you can always cease this conversation. But the point is, you will not make that point that maybe we are simply looking for nitpicking and looking for problems. This is a real problem.
Let me tell you what you are doing here. What you are doing here.
You want to tell me what I am doing?
No, what you are doing here is so synonymous with joy, where they have to find problem where not problem exists.
So we created the problem with the person who suffers cerebral palsy, right?
You call the spokesperson of the Ministry of Education. You ask the person is answering. The answer is not for you, the journalist. The answer is to the public, whether they are satisfied or it's up to them. You allow me.
I represent the public in this seat.
You allow me to finish my answer before you ask a different question.
Yes, but just to make the point, I represent the public in this seat.
Hold on. How was WAEC able to know that they are supposed to provide computer if at the end of the day the incident did not come to their attention? So we try to, create a mountain out of a molehill. We are making it look like journalism is about finding fault about a system at every point.
I totally disagree with you, but I'll allow you to go ahead with your point, and I'll come back.
At the end of the day, you brought up a new concern. Indeed, if WAEC was not concerned about it, how did the whole arrangement of even bringing in a computer come in the
Just to chip in, at no point did I say WAEC was not concerned. Do go ahead.
No, but that is the impression that you sought to create. You are dealing with 500.
Fortunately, you don't get to think for me. I am saying I was not insinuating WAEC was not concerned. Go ahead.
You are dealing with over 500,000 students. Then you have one isolated incident where you brought up, and the organization has responded that they are going to do A, B, and C, and D. If you are not satisfied, of course, there could be channels that probably the parents or whoever could be addressed. That cannot be a discussion on radio and create an impression that based on that, WAEC is insensitive or the ministry is sensitive. At the end of the day, if you want to be sentimental about discussions, what do you solve at the end of the day? For me, what do you solve? What is this whole thing up to make WAEC look bad, to make it look like leadership is not reacting, to make it look like leadership is not concerned? At the end of the day,
my surprise is that you look at it from a very negative angle and think that it is to make anybody look bad. Institutions are meant to act in certain ways. The public, excuse me, hold on for me. The public has expectations of our institutions. If we call these institutions to actually answer to certain things that have happened, I don't see how that can be negative. But in any case, maybe provisions have been made for a computer. How about the time constraints? Do you feel it is fair for this person to be made to, under the constraints, health constraints they have, to function at the same, under the same circumstances, time constraints as other people who don't have their peculiar challenges?
What do you think would have been the fair time for such a student?
I don't think I am determining that, but people have posed that question, which is why I'm posing it to you.
What do you think should have been the fair time? The student should have been given, 7 hours to sit with one question. What do you think? That's what I'm saying, that we take things out of a context.
Do you think this person could have been given more time? Maybe not 7 hours like you're saying tongue-in-cheek, but could this person have been given more time?
Be given the right time. What do you think should have been the right time?
I don't determine that, but I'm saying that you are insinuating. No one is saying 7 hours. But do you think this person could have been given at least more time since they are not in the same circumstances as other students?
More time like what? More time like what?
It's obvious we're not going to get anywhere on that tangent. So let's move the conversation forward.
Listen, my brother, you are dealing with over 500,000 students. Then you have an isolated incident, just like you brought up, of one incident where that person needs a particular attention. The organization comes out to say that this and this is what we are doing about it. Then you sit on radio or TV and make it look like
Kwasi Kwarteng, if you don't want to have this conversation, I suggest we draw the curtains on it, because the aspersions you are casting are suggesting that maybe we just come on air to denigrate the system is unfounded, unfair, and if you don't want to have this conversation, you can let me know. We can end it.
No, I just want to tell you that sometimes those sensationalism and blowing things out.
I can assure you we're not sensationalizing. If you found yourself in that situation, or a relative, I'm sure you would think different. And
No,
I
give
don't
us
get
ideal-
the pushback, really.
No, give us ideal what you would have done. Ideal what you would have done.
I don't.
You could have
Even
given
if I were to
the
put in a suggestion, I'm not a policymaker. You are. You are in a ministry that
the
has
policymaker
some
has
responsibility.
made a decision at the end of the day, and you sit here and run the whole, decision down. So tell us ideal situation. I'm not sure this whole journalism where you only find faults, try to blow things out of proportion, out of context is the way to go. It doesn't really help anyone. Yes, there could be challenges.
All right, Kwasi Kwarteng.
It's a dispassionate conversation over the issue.
Thank you very much. Before you go, I just want your quick thought. So examination malpractice and what we've had to deal with time and again. What are your expectations as a ministry this year? And finally, to add to that, there have been some rumors, talk. The Director General of the Ghana Education Service, is he still at post? 2 quick questions and then you can take leave of us, if you may. Oh, it appears we've lost Kwasi Kwarteng. A bit of a fiery one there, but for me, what I find rather interesting sometimes is how people who are supposed to speak on these matters and respond to issues that, you see, sometimes I feel these people don't get it. When I sit here, I don't just come and reflect maybe what I know or think. Sometimes I pose questions that I already have answers to, but it's so the public will be educated. And so for the life of me, I cannot understand why if a question is posed about someone I've dealt with in the past, people who have some of these cognitive issues, and someone who suffers from cerebral palsy, so obviously, cannot be treated the same way as someone who does not. So what measures are we putting in place? Whether 500,000 or 600,000 or 700,000, we must know who is in what position and how we can assist them. And if you say these things and it's sensationalism, then God have mercy on us. But let me go back to Martina Bugri. You were making a point about some of these students who were not able to sit the exam on day one. If you could wrap on those comments, and let me also bring in Rafiq Salam.
For the Northern region, the 2 centers that I visited, all the students were present. That's the Carl Pohini and the Ghana Senior High School centers. All the students were present. And the issue I was raising was Carl's case, the boy who has cerebral palsy. He had to start with his colleagues and finish with his colleagues, but obviously time was a problem. He told me that he couldn't finish the last part of the exercise because of time constraint. And so his plea was that if at least some 30 or 20 minutes could be added to him, it will help him a lot.
Was that eventually done?
No, time was not allowed. Extra time was not allowed for him yesterday. We don't know what will happen today, but for yesterday, the papers he wrote, he had to start with his colleagues and end with his colleagues. And one other thing is he had to bring his own laptop as well to be able to undertake the exams.
Right. Very interesting snippets there. Do hold for me, Martina Bugri. We have Kwasi Kwarteng back on the line. Kwasi, thank you for rejoining. So 2 quick questions I posed while we lost you. The first has to do with examination malpractice. It has marred our exams, even at the basic examination level for some time. What are the expectations of the Ministry of Education on that? And there are also these rumors.
Can you take that question again?
So examination malpractice, what are the expectations of the Ministry of Education on that as far as the BECE is concerned this year?
Yeah, last year, for instance, the Minister for Education has spoken about generalization of questions, which WAEC apparently took it upon themselves, and the questions were serialized mostly at the regional, on regional basis. I am personally yet to see the questions this year, but the expectation was that WAEC, even though independent body assets, maybe take a cue from last year's arrangement where we never had an incidence of leakage based on the serialization of the questions, and we hope that they repeat them, and of course, we based on that, we should expect that at the end of the day, we shouldn't hear incidents of leakages. But of course, to put this also in a certain broader perspective, not all the news about leakages may necessarily be leakage. Some of them are also more practices, of which we condemn in ultimate terms. In an instance where, for instance, you have a student or a teacher or any person who happens to be close contact with the question, especially when the exams is being held, takes a picture of any of the exams questions and happens to be on social media, especially at a time where the candidates themselves are in the exams or in our writing. That is the more practice. It may necessarily not be construed as a leakage, but of course, so far as we are within the public space and we see on social media, we may call it a leakage. But at the end of the day, these are all instances that we condemn as a ministry. If we look at the WAEC press, of which I'll refer you to, I think it was signed by the PRO, Madam Agnes Kudo, you realize that they've apparently put out some steps in mitigating issues of leakages and more practices. And as a ministry, we also encourage everybody to adhere to the rules of the exams and eschew all manner of more practices. It has always been, of course, just like last year, how we never recorded the incidents of more practice. So that is the expectation that we are very confident that YX should be able to replicate what they did last year, so that issues of leakages may not come in.
My final bit to you, just a bit of a curiosity. The Director General of the Ghana Education Service, Professor Kwasi Kwarteng, is he still at post? Has he been reassigned?
Come again?
The Director General of the Ghana Education Service, has he been reassigned? Is he still at post?
Yesterday I spoke to him in the office. I have not had any news as contrary to yesterday when I spoke to him. He was still at post as of yesterday. Today I have not had any contrary news. So far as I'm concerned, based on yesterday, I established contact with him, of course, in regards to the work that we did. When he was at post, he was at the office. I'm unable to, speak to any other or contrary, happening as of today, because I've not been briefed of any other thing.
Thank you, Kwasi. Always good catching up with you, and we wish you the very best. Kwasi Kwarteng is PRO for the Ministry of Education. Let me bring in Rafiq Salam, my colleague, all the way from WA. Rafiq, what can you report on the BECE? How are things going in the Upper West region?
Things in the Upper West region is going on smoothly. The exam started yesterday with a total of 13,321 students taking part in the examination in the Upper West region. Out of this number of 13,321, 6,592 are boys, and the girls are a little bit higher, with a population of 6,729. So they are dealing with several centers. Notable among them is the Senior High Technical School Center, where we have 2 centers located in this senior high school. So at the Center B, we have a candidate population of 299. My checks revealed that only 1 person was absent yesterday. The supervisor told me that they were told that ever since that candidate registered for the exams, she never turned up school. So everything is going on well at the centers in the Upper West region.
Are there any issues like we've seen Martina Bugri recording where some students were unable to sit their exams on day 1 or on the back of any health situations that have cropped up?
For now, such issues are not being brought to the attention of the authorities. We are here to get these issues if they are. But for now, things are moving on calmly as expected at the examination centers in the Upper West region. Maybe it's still too early yet for us to talk about some reasons, but as the days roll by, we will get to some of these nagging challenges.
Kwasi Kwarteng also made mention of the fact that usually when you register students, you don't get 100% turnout. What is the turnout like? You've mentioned the numbers. Is that 100% turnout?
Surely it couldn't be 100% turnout, because even if you have a candidate population of 1 center, 299, once one person is out, you can get the 100%. Some of these centers are having challenges, especially with the female, with a girl child, because majority of some of these candidates, when they register for the examination, they don't really come to school. But let me tell you, there's one interesting thing that is happening here in these regions. You have pupils or some of these candidates who are not from some of the schools. They have to migrate, they have to move to different schools to register. You have some candidates who are in, say, Form 1 or Form 2, but they want to jump and they move to other schools to register for the examination. But some candidates who, when they register for exams, they never turn up. And some of them too, during the examination, they fail to never. It could be as a result of some of them being pregnant or some of them who are now nursing mothers. But clearly means that these are issues that are expected in some of these centers.
Interesting. Hold for me, Rafiq. So just to end the conversation with both of you, Martina, have there been any such developments from your end, especially when teenage pregnancy comes in, or any of those who are mothers already who are taking this exam, sitting the exam?
For the 3 centers in the Tamale Metropolis and the Sanergu municipality that I visited, I didn't see anyone like that. And for the Kalponyini and the Ghana Senior High School Center, the PRO of the Ghana Education told me that they have not recorded anybody with pregnancy or breastfeeding.
Well, Martina, Rafiq, we're grateful that you could join the conversation and bring us the latest from the northern region and the upper west region, Tamale to be specific, and of course, Wa as well. So we've been having this conversation on the back of the BECE, which has started. In fact, it started yesterday. It's going all the way till Friday. And the numbers may not be 100% like have been mentioned by my correspondents. But the point to be made, a large number of them are sitting the exam, bar those who couldn't start from yesterday. And it is the hope that anyone who qualifies, who is there, will be given the opportunity to do so. And that for those who need assistance, like that student with cerebral palsy, more will be done to ensure that they can actually see the exams through. Coming up next, we're going to be having a conversation on energy, and the Energy Commission, in collaboration with the Ghana Education Service, is seeking to provide education and awareness on renewable energy, clean energy, and energy efficiency among the various senior high schools and technical institutions in the country. What exactly is the rationale behind this drive, this push, and how are they going to execute it? Details after the break.